There's a first time for everything. Now you get to watch me in my very first IDPA competition. Oh my, coming up. Hey folks, and welcome back to 22 Short Thursdays on Get on Target with Link. This week I finally made good on my threat to compete in an IDPA event. IDPA stands for International Defensive Pistol Association. A few weeks ago I said that I was going to be doing, well, I've been threatening it for over a month, but I finally got around to it. The schedule wound up to allow me to go over and shoot, and I took my best shot. But a few weeks ago, I did lay out what my goals were for my first event. Let's take a look at that real quick. My first IDPA event, I think, is coming up very, very soon. When it does, I'm going to make sure to share it with you. I'm looking forward to that. I have two goals for my first IDPA event. One, don't get DQ'd, don't get disqualified. And my second is try not to be last. That's it. If I can accomplish those two things, wildly successful. If I can just not be disqualified, modestly successful. So I'll still take last place because you got to be in it to win it. So I'm looking forward to getting started with that. Well, I'm here to announce I met my goals. Not by much. I didn't exceed them by much, but I did meet my goals. I was not disqualified from the event. I did not cause mortal wounds to any of my fellow competitors. I'm pretty proud of that. And I did not come in last. I threatened it. I got close, but I did not come in last. We're going to take a look at some of the footage from that. I had a point of view GoPro camera on my earphones, my headphones, and and there were 3 stages to the event. Unfortunately, I forgot to press play on the 3rd stage, but that's okay. You'll get the idea. But what we're going to look at is the range officer explaining the stages. I'm only going to go through the first 2 of his explanation because the 3rd one you don't get to see anyway. But I will mention about the 3rd stage. On the 3rd stage, it was in a dark corner of the range. Intentionally, it was supposed to be a low light test. My eyes weren't up to it, and there was a headshot from about, I would say, maybe 20 feet, something like that. I couldn't find it. I just couldn't find the target. I couldn't put my sights on it. But the most important part of this for me, and what I want to impart to you, is that I did it. I had tremendous anxiety about this. I knew I wasn't going to be competitive. I've never been in any kind of a gun competition other than 22 rifles way back in high school. And it's been a very, very long time before I competed, since I competed in any type of a shooting event. And I had tremendous anxiety about this. I knew I was going to embarrass myself in front of people that were good shooters and also had experience with IDPA events and didn't have any of the anxiety about that first time. That was my biggest success, was overcoming all of that to do it anyway. And having done that, I know that the next time that I do this is going to be a much, much better experience. Not better experience, because I had a great time. The people there were incredibly supportive. Nobody embarrassed me. Nobody made me feel like the fool that I actually was. But I did it. I rose above my fear, and I did it anyway. I was terrible. There were 22 competitors. I was 19th. So I was not last. But all kidding aside, that was my goal. If I wasn't last, I was thrilled. I had every reason to believe I very well could have been, and I wasn't. And anyway, what we're going to do now is take a look at some of the footage. First, of the range officer explaining those first two stages. I'm going to do some voiceover to explain it a little further, so it makes sense to you watching it. But and then we'll take a look at how I did on those first two stages. One of the things that I had to do, which I have not been practicing at all, was one-handed shooting, and I'm bad enough with two. So it was that was a huge challenge, and that happened in stage 2. But you'll see all that coming up. Let's take a look at the range officer while he explains what we're supposed to accomplish in these first two stages.
All right, stage 1. Stage 1, we have 7 targets. You're going to engage them with 2 rounds each. It is not limited. Concealment garment is not required. You're going to begin seated in either this chair or this chair. The opposite, whatever chair you're sitting in, the opposite barrel, you'll have your unloaded firearm on the barrel. The other 3 barrels will have 1 magazine each. So sit in this chair, guns over there, sit in that chair, firearm will be here. Okay? Have your buzzer, stand up, come around behind the walls, retrieve your firearm, and you engage all your targets from cover of the fault lines. Around the left, we have a fault line on the floor for 2 targets. Make sure you find the corner. Around the right, there's a fault line on the floor for 2 targets. In the middle, you're going to have to go to both sides. The wall is your physical fault line. You will see 2 targets on the left. You'll see 2 targets on the right, with the center target being visible from both sides. So there's 3 targets. You'll see the center one on both sides. You can choose to shoot on either side you'd like. Okay? All right. You guys walk it over?
Okay. So on stage 1, the 2 chairs were inside those cages that you saw. And what you had to do is you could start from either chair. Your firearm had to be on the last barrel furthest away from you, and you had a magazine placed on each of the other 3 barrels. So when the buzzer went off, you had to get up from your chair, retrieve a magazine, go across the back there, load your weapon, and you would lean out, and you had 2 targets on that side, 2 shots apiece. Then you had on the other side, same setup, leaning around the barrier, you had 2 targets, 2 shots apiece. Now when you went into that center area, you had to go to both sides of that barrier. You had 3 targets back there. You could fire at 2 of them from either side, and the other one from the other side that you hadn't used. So if you went to one side, I went to the right, and I fired at both targets that I could see from that side, 2 shots apiece, and then went to the other side and shot the final target twice. So that was the setup. That was stage 1. Let's take a look at stage 2.
Strings, both strings are 3 targets. They are not limited. We will score in between strings. Concealment garment is not required. Your firearm will be loaded to mission capacity in your hand, muzzle touching the baster on top of the barrel. Okay, 1 string is going to be strong hand, 1 string is going to be freestyle. You can shoot them in any order you like. The first string, 2 rounds to each of the 3 targets. After you're done with that, perform a reload off the clock. Back to holding the gun with the muzzle on the barrel. String 2 is just 2 rounds to each of the 3 targets. So again, 1 string is is freestyle and one string is strong hand only. And it doesn't matter to me which one you do first. Okay?
So stage 2 was pretty straightforward, but it was difficult for me because I hadn't been practicing all along with one-handed shooting. Don't have much experience with that at all. So there were 2 strings, in other words, 2 timed sections that made up the entire stage. You did one for time, and then you stopped, reloaded, and you did another one for time. One of them had to be one-handed. The other one was freestyle, which for most of us was going to be a 2-handed event. 2 shots in each of 3 targets in each string. Pretty straightforward. That was the second stage. Now, like I said, we're not going to be talking about stage 3 because I didn't get any footage of it. Foolish me. Sorry, guys. But it was pretty embarrassing anyway. It was pretty rough. Stage 3 was a hard one for me. The vision was just terrible for me. But I survived it, and better than 3 other people. So what the heck. But we are going to take a look at my efforts at stages 1 and 2. So let's take a look at that footage. Stage 1, this is me in the chair, getting myself organized, shaking out the butterflies, and off we go. And everything seemed to go pretty well. Picked up my magazine, no problem. Found my unloaded weapon, loaded it up, took aim, nothing. What had happened is the magazine had not completely seated in the magazine well. So when I tried to rack it, it still wasn't seated well, so it still didn't shoot. Then I realized it wasn't seated, seated the magazine, but didn't rack it. Still didn't shoot. Finally racked it, now it shot, and I was off to the races. So completely user error, and I don't know, what was that, 5 or 7 seconds probably added to my time just because of me not seating the magazine fully before it was nerves. So that added to my score, obviously. And then from there, the rest of the stage was okay. I went through that with, I took 4 shots on one of the targets. You were not limited to 2 shots. Only 2 shots count on each target, but they are unlimited shots. Obviously, the more shots you take, the more time you're taking with the target. And you are shooting for what your total score is an accumulation of time and accuracy. When you're not accurate, time is added to your score for how far out you are from your target. So, but I felt I needed to take some extra shots on that one. I hadn't landed where I needed to be, and so took some extra shots. But I survived it. I had gotten through my first stage of IDPA competition, and that was a big deal, just having gotten through that. So now let's take a look at stage 2. As you can see, in stage 2, I decided to start off and get it over with the strong hand shooting, the one-handed shooting. And if you watch my weapon, I have no control of the weapon one-handed. After each shot, I can't control the recoil with one hand. So I'm desperately trying to get back on target after each and every pull of the trigger. In between, you get rid of the partially used magazine, put in a fresh one, and I went to rack the magazine. He said, "You don't stop, don't do that, you're already chambered." And I went, "Oh yeah, that's true." So anyway, but on the freestyle, that was probably the best thing that I did in the evening. Just 2 shots in fairly quick succession, and they were fairly accurate. I didn't wildly lose points being outside of the center mass of those targets. So that was actually a big deal for me. That I was able to keep things pretty much together on what I had been practicing, which is two-handed shooting, probably 15 feet, 20 feet away, something like that. Yeah, probably 20. Might have been 7 yards. I'm not sure. It might have been 7 yards, but anyway, somewhere in that range. And I did okay. So I was pretty pleased with at least the second string of stage 2 was a success for me. Like I said, stage 3 was a meltdown, but I got through it. And at the end of it, I had competed in an IDPA event. You don't get your scores that evening. They are collated by the team and posted on Practice Score, which is online. And it takes several hours, and sometimes you won't get your final scores until the next day. But I finally got them late in the evening and found out I had not finished last, and I was delighted. I can't recommend it more. If you're even considering doing this, just jump in and be prepared to suck your first time. Who cares? Just get out there and do it. And the second time will be a little bit better. Third time, maybe a little better than that. And after a while, you're going to get to the level of shooter that you actually are. Because your first events, I can tell you, are not going to be reflective of how good a shooter you are. There's too much other stuff going on for it to be useful in terms of determining how good a shooter you are. Just do it. Just get your feet in there, find out all the stuff that you don't know, and discover it. The whole sequence of events, what you have to do, and just learn the whole process of it. That's half the battle. It's half the battle when you start any sport. When you're a little kid and you start Little League or T-ball today, you've got to learn all the rules. You have to learn the game. Well, I just took my first baby steps into learning the game, and I had a blast, and you will too. I want to thank the people at the Colonial Shooting Academy, IDPA, CSAIDPA.com is their email, and you can reach them if you need to. But fantastic place, it's a massive facility, and the folks could not have been more welcoming to me in my ineptitude. I mean, to have me there and to welcome me with open arms at my level of incredible inanity was fantastic. It was just great. And the fellow shooters were just as welcoming. They didn't make me feel like a blooming idiot. And I was, and they didn't make me feel that way. They were excited that I was there and trying and taking my shots and learning the ropes. And I cannot thank those folks at CSA, IDPA, and all the shooters, all my fellow competitors. Couldn't have been a better experience. It was just a delight, and I can't wait to go back, and I will go back, and I will get better. I don't know if I'll get good, but I'll get better. And that was the sum total of the event for me. Good vibes and good learning, and I feel empowered that I rose above my fears and I went and did it anyway. Do it too. Give it a shot. You don't have to have a special gun. I did that recent video on the Jonic TP9 SFX, and that's what I shot in this competition, and I will continue to use that. The weapon did wonderfully. I didn't wield it very well. My ineptitude cost me points, and that's something that I learned. And that's something that I'll be able to rectify next time around. But the Jonic was terrific. Watch the video on the Jonic and take a peek at that if you want to get serious about competition. It's a great, affordable way to get a competitive gun for this sport. But if you don't want to do that investment, the pistol that you have will do just fine. 9mm and above, and you're good to go. So don't feel like you have to spend oodles of money to get started with this. Just get started, because it's fun and it's challenging and it's exciting. So that's all I got this week. I'll bring other events to you in the future. Sorry I didn't have more varied views. I didn't have a partner in crime to shoot me while I was shooting. All I could do was my point of view. But I hope it gave you a little bit of a flavor of the event and what I went through. And if you enjoyed this, tell some folks, tune in to see how ridiculous Link was at his first IDPA event. Like the video, subscribe, ring the bell. I'm going to tell you, Tuesdays and Thursdays, we publish every week. So there's something new coming every week. So until the next time we meet here on Get on Target with Link, I will see you.